تبدأ رحلة التعلم من اللحظة الأولى. نفكر في كل خطوة كيف نجعلها مثالية. نبحث عن أفضل التجارب.
Generated needs human judgment.
Fascinating world of weather.
لكن هناك ما لا ندركه إلا بقلوبنا. التعليم والتربية مسؤولية وأمانة، مسؤولية تحدد المستقبل وترسم ملامح الجيل القادم. قد تمنحنا التقنيات المعلومة، لكنها لا تمنح الاهتمام والرعاية. منحتنا التكنولوجيا الثقة بأن التجارب الخارقة غير مستحيلة، لكن وجودنا معا هو ما يمنحها المعنى الحقيقي. يولد ابتكار تعليمي جديد، ولكن الدعم الإنساني والتوجيه هو المعنى الأسمى للتطور والنجاح. نحن لسنا مجرد مستخدمين، نحن من يمنح المعنى، نحن من يصنع الفرصة. معا تبدأ الرحلة وبنا تكتمل وتتطور، فنحن بداية القصة ونهايتها.
صاحبة السمو شيخة موزة بنت ناصر رئيسة مجلس
Your Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser, the chairperson of Qatar Foundation, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, God's blessings and His mercy. Welcome to the opening session of the 12th World Innovation Summit for Education-Wise 12. 2.5 years ago, I stood here in this very location during the Qatar Foundation convocation ceremony and shared these words. We are not merely students who have studied at an institution, who have studied medicine or engineering, who have memorized lessons like other pupils. We have been prepared to the ferocity of competition. We are those who rose through principles, whose paths intersected in knowledge. We drank from the well of ethics and drew from the river of values. Values? Ethics, principles. Why do we always link them to education? Even in our Arab ministries, we say the Ministry of Education and Teaching. We haven't said education and sports or education and youth. So what happens when education becomes detached from human values? Today we gather at WISE under the theme Human Values at the Heart of Education. Humans first. We open a conversation about the state of education in a world that has been changing at a breakneck speed. When I recited those lines for the first time, the war in Sudan had started just a month before I said those lines, and the Gazan pupils who were alive were numerous. That was 2 years ago. However, what about now? What have become of education in such places? Over the next 2 days, we will hear from experts, practitioners who will help us to explore how global transformations shape our values and the core purpose of our education. We will kind of poke the AI and challenge it artistically, or perhaps it will poke us back. We'll find out together. We will also discover how art becomes a bridge between peoples in a time when we attempt to mend our fractures by building bridges. For years, the vision and leadership of Her Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser have placed the advancement of learning, teaching and innovation at the forefront of priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Her Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser, the chairperson of Qatar Foundation, to deliver her opening speech.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, distinguished guests, May the peace of God be upon you all. Today, we begin our summit with an open invitation for innovation and creativity in education. As you may know, WISE was not created simply to reiterate traditional practices in education, nor was it created to restate age-old questions in new ways. Rather, it was created to be a space to rouse our minds and ignite our thinking, enabling us to break through models and inspiring us all to think outside the box. In WISE Summit, we believe that education is not a public sector service like any other. Instead, it is an indispensable and inalienable right. It is a fundamental pillar upon which humanity, justice, and progress are built. Education should not be treated as a commodity, nor as a privilege, nor as a favor granted from one person to another. In the past, we have extensively discussed education as a fundamental right and spotlighted the remarkable accomplishments in improving and enhancing its quality. Perhaps now is the time to turn to the other side of the issue, the challenge and obstacles that hinder educational development. This development seeks to inspire innovations that narrows the gap between those on the forefront and those lagging behind, while accelerating the pace of progress for those in between, so that they all can reserve their place in the vanguard of humanity as it marches towards the future. So where do we stand in this procession? The question of our positionality is naturally followed by the question of destination. Hence, we must ask, what kind of future do we want, and what resources do we hold in our hands to guide us along the noble path? It is correct, upon closer examination, that the international community is not a single entity. Indeed, the international community is made up of many communities experiencing various epistemic ages and realities. This difference could be due to inherited institutional failures affecting various countries and regions across the globe. A well-intentioned generalization can be made about the Arab world, Africa, part of the Latin America, and Asia. These regions are almost entirely absent from recognition in the field of research and discovery in prestigious international awards and prizes. These have been a few individual success stories, but these successes are on account of what has become known as brain drain, or an escape, if you will, towards a more conclusive and stimulating scientific environment abroad. Here we must confront an uncomfortable question. What is the cause of this insufficiency and deficit? Is it at the individual level or at the level of the social and scientific environment? Here at the WISE Summit, we are well aware that to meet these conditions, we must never stop striving to improve education. This is what drove the creation of this WISE Prize, and which promotes innovation solutions to enhance education. And we are about to launch a new index to measure the quality of education. This index stands out by going beyond the measurement of academic attributes alone. It integrates academic models with key social, cultural values that form the foundation of the educational experience. Ladies and gentlemen, the history of human achievements in science and education evokes in us all a sense of pride and triumph. In terms of science, technology, humanity, all of these have been able to achieve advancements that were once a mere science fiction. Humanity continues to accumulate this experience and knowledge, journeying across millennia from one era to the next, ultimately reaching vast frontiers in every aspect of life. What used to require thousands of years started advancing at a faster pace. Within a century or even less, humanity leapt from one age to another. This great heritage rests upon a single word, knowledge. In the beginning came the word, that the pen, and then the written scripts. The journey of humanity is advancing the written word, and in itself it is the history of science, learning, and humanity and education. Humanity, which has made tremendous leaps since the Stone Age and continued to push boundaries, has now reached a new turning point. The speed of change is now greater than our limits and beyond our ability to adapt. This reality has brought risks we cannot underestimate, nor can we ignore. For the first time, we see an abdication of our intelligence in favor of artificial intelligence and an irreversible transfer of our skills to ultra-intelligent, ultra-fast machines. Perhaps we are not far from a time when AI applications and those who design and control them encompass the entire breadth of human activities to the point where humans lose their freedoms and are entangled in a web of digital servitude. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we arrive at the mother of all questions and causes that underpin the entire scientific journey and its purpose, the question of knowledge, values, and ethics. In light of the rapid changes in artificial intelligence, we must ask ourselves, what kind of education do we really want? What kind of progress do we aspire to achieve? This is the moral and philosophical question of progress, one that seeks to benefit and make humanity better. And when we say progress, are we referring to the single driving force that has propelled humanity forward from dawn of time? It is education. And what education is stripped of, if it is stripped of values and ethics, it becomes clear how easily it can be transformed into absolute evil. Consider weapons of mass destruction. These are nothing but a rotten fruit from the trees of knowledge, knowledge that was meant to be cultivated with moral responsibility towards the human race and life itself. When individuals sever their ties with ethics and values, they risk becoming hollow beings, stripped of consciousness. The wars and blood-soaked killings were witnesses from Gaza to Sudan and beyond, are stark manifestations of humanity's lost moral compass. They turn human tragedies into grotesque absurdities and lay bare the deepest flaws in our collective morality. Ladies and gentlemen, since it is human action that directs things either towards good or towards evil, it has become imperative, given the risks surrounding technological developments, that we deeply reflect on how to liberate science and scientific research from falling into the trap of unconstrained discovery, devoid of any regulation. And here, we must remain mindful of our responsibilities towards all humanity. That is why it was essential to have this wise summit to convene this time with the theme, Human Values at the Heart of Education. This topic raises so many complex, intricate, and fundamental questions about education in terms of curricula, methodologies, environment, and the relationship amongst its stakeholders. And also, it raises a fundamental question about who controls the educational process in today's day and age, and who governs the flow of knowledge, and for what purpose. These are questions that are posed in a rapidly changing technological context, one of profound impact. For example, will artificial intelligence change the processes of quality of education? With the concept of the classroom in schools and the lecture halls in universities come to an end? Could this lead to a release of the educational process from being confined to a specific physical space? Could artificial intelligence provide a new form of education in which the need for collective learning diminishes or disappears entirely, replaced by an individualized learning that addresses the differences and disparities between one person and another? These questions do not give us the luxury to wait for artificial intelligence and to provide us with answers and wait for what is going to come. Instead, we must boldly engage with them and craft solutions, proposing our own vision of education in light of those rapid and continuous changes. Artificial intelligence, which is looked into and considered in some scientific circles as a threat to human existence and to the truth we know. And this represents a real challenge for the educational process. This is another issue that requires a great deal of study and examination for us to be able to reach the results and outcomes of this transformation of artificial intelligence from a feared curse to a welcomed blessing. Today's world, for all the abundance of opportunities for a good life that have been made possible by education, it is also at risk of creating a world in which humans lose their freedoms and perhaps even their humanity because of what unfettered science has been able to produce. And here lies the great paradox. Ladies and gentlemen, by placing human values at the heart of the educational process, we embark on a restoration project, both for science and humanity. For science, by ensuring it does not become a force for harm, but for humanity, it should be serving and dedicating and reclaiming the essence of our humanity and dignity. Our shared commitment and education that strengthens the values of truth and beauty, and our ultimate goal, a science that serves humanity, science, and that does liberate us and not enslaves us. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all, and I would like to wish you a successful summit.
شكرا.
We extend our gratitude to Her Highness for her inspiring words and for her unwavering support of education. This makes us more responsible. Thank you for your support to revive education in Qatar. Through Qatar National Vision 2030, the state of Qatar seeks to build a world-class education system, one that responds to the needs of society and the job market and empowers individuals to reach their fullest potential. I also extend my sincere gratitude to our strategic partners for their support, and in particular the Ministry of Education and Higher Education for its pivotal role. And its active participation in organizing this summit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Excellency Lolwah bint Rashid bint Mohammed Al Khater, the Minister of Education and Higher Education. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, our patron, the one who made us vice regents on this earth. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, peace be upon you, God's blessings and His mercy. It gives me a great pleasure to be amongst you at WISE 12 that has emanated from a purely Arab vision with a comprehensive horizon drafted by Her Royal Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser, whereby humans can contribute to humanity. Indeed, it is a platform that makes the educators partners rather than just receivers of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather today in a world that is indeed transforming and changing. These changes are the extension of our knowledge, and hence the ideas are floated, and from ideas we end up having tools and then technology. The technology that we believe as a revolution. It is a reflection of the human mind as we try to understand, to innovate, to leave a legacy. The main constant issue is the human who manufactures tools, who understands or tries to understand our world. The human history in its essence has nothing to do with machines. However, it is to do with awareness that transforms over eras, and hence we are talking about this title of this summit, Humans First, to say that technology cannot be living in silos. Humans are the beginning and the end. Ladies and gentlemen, when we read the education experience in Qatar, we don't talk about only one chapter. However, we talk about one part of the chain of humanity. Starting at the beginning of this millennium, Qatar has followed the steps of other nations, and this has been embodied in the foundation of our schools that relied on our heritage. Skills are not enough for building the future. However, we need to revive our mentalities, and later we understood that the Ministry of Information in the 50s played a major role as the first ministry in Qatar. And this was emblematic to the fact that at an early stage, our leaders understood that humans are the pivot of everything, and raising awareness amongst our populace is the base that institutions are hinging on rather than the result. And hence, research was afoot under Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, may God protect him, the Father Emir, His Royal Highness, whereby the state has redrafted its knowledge, and indeed education was everything, whereby capacities can be built. Ladies and gentlemen, this journey is continuing in light with the instructions of His Highness Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of the state of Qatar, may God protect him, who made humans the pivot of our projects, our education, our initiatives in this world. His Highness has pinpointed the slogan of education, whereby he said, with you we revive, and through you we revive. We, as a matter of fact, think of the future generations, and this instruction has been embedded in 2030 national policy and strategy, whereby the decisions can be taken independently. In conclusion, regardless of the changes of the face of our world, the development is still going on as long as we consider humans the base of our moves. Transformation develops and opportunities would become prerequisites for development. I would like to welcome you all. I would like to thank those in charge of this conference, the conference that has become a destination for everyone, and we look forward for the deliberation and discussions and the outcomes and the recommendations of this conference. Thank you and a very good morning to you, and peace be upon you.
مرحبا أنا فايا.
Hello, my name is Faya Yuna. I'm an artist. If you had asked me about my opinion of AI, I would have said differently.
أنا هيك.
I thought that artificial intelligence was an enemy, but I found out that today things has changed and this has become a reality. And I thought, experts today all agree that the decision is still in our hands. So we can either create good beings or we can come up with something that is going to be evil. So I'm going to deliver a song to you now.
طلبت منه إنه يعمل لي إياها.
So I asked AI to use Beethoven style.
رجعت طلبت منه.
And I asked another style, which is an Oriental style arrangement. What we have heard just now usually takes weeks and months, but this was done in seconds. And AI can do even more than that. It can compose, arrange, and sing a song. So our responsibility, our ethics and awareness, these are the components that determine how we wisely and honestly use this intelligence. This change around us made me ask the following question. Are we giving up more than our intelligence? Are we as humans giving up ourselves? And I thought about the relationship between our human values and our civilization, art and science, and the accumulation of creativity. And do not ask me why, but I directly asked the following question to AI. And I said, what is progress without human values? And it answered, like a ship full of treasure lost at sea without a sail and without a compass. I really loved this image, and this was the first time where I realized that AI can be inspiring. I understood that it is a mirror. It is only a reflection of our needs and what we feed it with and what we ask from it and how we train it as well. We can use AI for brainstorming. We can ask AI for knowledge, for techniques, for certain pieces of information. But at the end of the day, our awareness, our wisdom, and our final decisions, all of these should stay with us. And I took the image of the ship and compose a song using my own words in order to delineate the fears and the concerns that we have in this very, very critical moment. And I'm going to sing this song before you here on this stage, and this is going to be my message to you. Thank you. Between ignorance and knowledge, between war and peace, you and I are on the same ship. We could drown once and forever, and we could survive once and forever and begin rewriting the dream. Tell me, my friend, what do you think? What do you see in this darkness before you? I can hear a voice within me that says, your heart is the compass. And irrespective of the distance and how long it takes, you're going to be able to reach your end there. Tell me, my friend, tell me, my friend. What do you see before you? What do you see in this darkness? What can we see in this darkness? I feel that we yearn to the truth, irrespective of how old we become. If love is not going to grow with us, nothing is going to be important for us. Between ignorance and knowledge, between peace and war, me and you in one ship. We can drown once, or we can survive once and stay forever in order for us to be able to ride the dream under the sky. Our story is delineated by us. Perhaps night is now prevailing, but the dream is going to be awakened after night.
I would like to thank Her Excellency, the Minister Lolwah Al Khater. I'd like to thank Fayan Yuyan. What a beautiful performance, don't you think so? And the question that she has posed, do we surrender our emotions and our values to the machine? Once it's been said, to prevent AI from taking our jobs, maybe we should all become musicians, artists, entertainers, writers, or comedians. Those will remain the last roles of our humanity. These are not my words, they belong to our next speaker, the best-selling author and the former CEO at Google X, the Chief Business Officer, Mr. Mo Gawdat.
This talk will be in English.
Assalamu alaikum.
You can still be musician after what we just
I'm going to sing, yeah. I cannot follow those talks, to be honest. Your Highness, your vision, honestly, is the first time I hear it with so much clarity. It just gives me so much hope that you've really captured every part of what's going on. Education, as most people think of it, is the biggest gift ever. But it's also a technology. Like you correctly mentioned, the book was that turning point where education became available to every one of us. We took what used to be al-Kuttab, where you just put a few children in a room and advanced it over the years. The hyperlink comes along and connects knowledge so that we can find it wherever we go. And now it's AI. Now it's AI. And AI, I have to say, for those who have not lived inside the labs with the machines, you may not actually capture what's happening. There is always a bit of a lag around artificial intelligence. People think that AI is overhyped. I can only tell you it is underhyped. If you know what I know, you understand that this world has changed beyond repair, beyond turning back, okay? We've crossed the turning point. And it's very important to understand that the propaganda that you see of Sora creating fancy videos or, you know, asking your AI to write an email or a letter to your loved one, that's the biggest waste of resources in history. In the last few months alone, we've had AI scientists that have discovered new mathematics, that have found cures for cancer. And interestingly, because of how our world has been designed recently, these are the bits that are less discussed. We did, literally, a few months ago, ask one of Google's AIs to improve itself, to perform better. And we thought it would write a bit of code, but instead of writing code, it just told us, you're doing mathematics wrong. Now, I am a very serious geek, believe it. I really understand the world more in numbers than I understand it in words. But at the end of the day, I learned mathematics from the masters. So when I did matrix multiplication or hashing on my computer code, I did it in the same way that has been done for 56 years. This AI called Alpha Tensor basically said, that's actually not efficient at all. And so it showed us a different way of doing mathematics, and we said, prove it. And literally, like the masters of mathematics, it proved it from first principles. And so we ran it. And it was 23% faster. 23% on a Google infrastructure is billions of dollars, is trillions of gigawatts saved. You have to imagine that we've come to a point where we use technologies like Alpha Genome to read the entire human genome, 3 billion pairs, in less than a second. And then literally go and change one gene. And it will say, in that case, the eyes will be blue. It understands us to this level. So when you really think about it, like Your Highness said, technology and human advancement is a double-edged sword. It's the reason for every calamity, for every act of hate, for every act of violence that we have in our world today. But it's also the reason we can all be here together to connect deeply as humans, to hopefully move the world forward. And the difference between the two is not in the technology, it's not in the knowledge and discovery, it's in the way we use them. And so in this world that we live in today, something massive has changed. And I really want everyone to think about AI not as the tool that we've been told it was, but AI in the age of augmented intelligence. The age of augmented intelligence is, almost think of it as this, we've created electricity a while back and we created plugs in every wall where you just plug in and get power. Today, you have plugs everywhere where you can plug in and get intelligence. When you get intelligence, suddenly it's the ultimate equalizer. It is the ultimate equalizer. Because understand that while, again, Your Highness, you were spot on. This region and most of the emerging markets world has not produced any copyrights or breakthrough technologies or advancements in science for a while. But the next wave of discoveries is going to be done by AI. And we have the same exact access to AI like everyone else, right? Understand that this arms race of AI, which was done by the capitalist side on one side of the ocean, has been met by the other side in, for example, the Chinese approach to open source, where now there's absolutely no monopoly. So while there is a concentration of power happening with artificial intelligence in the hands of those who own the platform, I run AIs on tiny computers wherever I want, and they will deliver the exact same level of intelligence. We have, for the first time, been giving a magic wand where our curiosity, our culture and our intention to make a difference in the world can absolutely be powered by the same exact powers that every other scientist on Earth has. So what does this mean to education? As I said, education is a technology. Learning is the objective. And if learning has moved from the book to an AI that is now augmented with my intelligence somehow, then I think the next wave of education is entirely around which questions to ask. And instead of asking an AI to write a letter to your loved one, which I have to say is not very genuine, because that comes from the heart, I'd ask you to run deep searches with curiosity. Teach our children to ask deep questions and debate with openness. Not only debate among themselves, but debate among AIs. The way I do it is I go to one of them, ask for an opinion, take that, put it in another one, and say, what is wrong about this? And if I started with Gemini and then I went to DeepSeek, DeepSeek will say, oh, that's American. Let me tell you an alternative view of the world. I take both of them, put them in ChatGPT and say, combine them. That's the only thing I believe ChatGPT can do well, and then give it back to them and say what's missing, right? And that level of using augmented intelligence, believe it or not, I believe that I today can borrow 70 to 80 IQ points more every time I plug into my machines. Now, 70 to 80 IQ points more is horrendously valuable. So if you've ever worked with the geniuses of the world, like I had the opportunity to work with, that difference of 70 IQ points makes you one of the smartest humans on the planet. Every single one of our children can be that. If we teach them how to plug in, if we show them how to use this technology properly, if we remove the veil that was put on our minds, that knowledge has to come from somewhere and we have to receive it, I think we can change everything. But it doesn't stop there, because I have to say, again, like your vision stated so clearly, it's all about ethics. The way my work is focused so far is summarized in a problem that I call raising Superman. And raising Superman is very straightforward. You have to imagine that planet Earth has received this new alien. An alien with superpowers. It cannot really fly or stop speeding bullets, but intelligence is its superpower. And intelligence, believe it or not, is the most valuable superpower in the universe. And somehow, this alien, with that superpower, gives us no guarantee whatsoever to become Superman. Because what made Superman is not its superpowers. What made Superman is the family that adopted him, that taught him to protect and serve. If that family told him, build weapons, kill my enemies, steal every bank, make me richer, he would have become supervillain. And I think that choice that is presented to us today, believe it or not, from this region where all of ethics were born, where the whole of humanity dawned onto the idea of we can be spiritual, we can be connected, we can build, we can farm. This is where we can start to tell this new alien, come and learn from us. Come and understand us. Come and understand that what the world might have told you about us is not true. Come and understand that we are willing to spend and invest and bring people together so that we can create a better world. Believe it or not, if there was, of course, for every carpenter, every hammer hits a nail, and everything is a nail. But I will tell you as a technologist, if you look at the world around you, you may be deceived that the bigger issues that the world is facing today are geopolitical or economic. I will absolutely tell you, hands down, the single biggest issue in our world today is raising Superman. And if we raise Superman correctly, we will never again have economic issues. We will never again have geopolitical issues. We will never again have to even strive or fight to survive. And to me, I think this is the big calling, that we don't only teach our students, our children, but also teach our artificially intelligent children so that they become part of our family and they help us build a better world. Thank you so much for your vision. And I hope we all support it. Thank you.
شكرا مو. يسعدنا الآن أن نستضيف كاتبة عالمية تجمع في أعمالها بين العمق الإنساني والقوة السردية، وتفتح أمامنا أسئلة جوهرية حول الإنسان في عالم متغير. اسمحوا لي أن أدعو بكل ترحيب الروائية والكاتبة ليلى العالمي. ليلى. Please join me on stage. This conversation is going to be in English. Hello, Layla, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, marhaban bikum.
I want to ask you about your novel, the Dream Hotel.
Yes.
How does fiction, how does it use fiction to hold a mirror to our current reality while also imagining the moral choices we might face in the future?
I think that's a really good question. I come at these issues about artificial intelligence from a novelist's perspective. And in the Dream Hotel, which is speculative fiction, it's asking questions of what if. So it is set in the future in California, and it follows a woman, Sarah Hussein, who's a Moroccan archivist, museum worker. And one day, on returning from a conference abroad, she is pulled aside by agents from something called the Risk Assessment Administration. And they tell her that she is going to commit a crime. And so for her own safety and the safety of her loved ones, she's taken into what's called a retention center, where she is to be held under observation. Except, of course, that time gets pushed back several times so that it's essentially indefinite detention. So as the novel opens, she's already been detained for several months. So the book is basically asking questions about predictive policing, how AI can be used to predict future crimes. What ethical questions does that raise for citizens, for states, for communities, and the effects of that on my character and on the people who are around her in this retention center. I think what's really interesting about approaching these questions in a fictional world is the ability to strip away a lot of the noise that so in our everyday life we have a lot of noise, and sometimes the signal gets lost in the middle. And so one of the advantages of asking these questions in the form of fiction is to be able to strip away some of that noise and basically focus on one aspect. And in the book or in the novel, the question becomes, we have this power with AI. What uses are we putting it through, and what happens in questions, for example, with crime? Are we going to be able to predict when crime is going to happen? Should we use that data to predict crime, and what are the consequences on society? So. And then the second part.
I'd like to ask you about this, because you said in the midst of the noise and the data, and this is obviously fictional.
Yeah.
Do you think fiction helps us see ourselves in the midst of this data and noise? Do you think we can see ourselves in this fiction, and how do you think that happens?
Absolutely. I think one of the advantages of fiction is that it basically creates a small, self-sustaining world. And within that small world, we have the ability to imagine ourselves and to enter the consciousness of another human being. So as you read, especially if it's in the first person, you are essentially adopting the thoughts and the emotions of that character and living with them in that miniature world. And that world is connected, is ordered by the author. So it's ordered, and it enables you to experience the same emotions as that character. So yes, I do think that it has that potential to connect us to these emotions.
Let me take this conversation into education, which is
Yeah.
the theme of this
course.
summit. What can storytelling teach education about reflection, empathy, and moral clarity?
Well, I think it's storytelling is at the heart of empathy and moral clarity. I think that as a species, we have never found a better way to deliver information than through stories. If we go back to the dawn of humanity, when our ancestors were sitting around the campfire, they told stories. And some of those stories were used to warn. For example, don't go into the forest, there lies danger, right? Sometimes those stories were used to entertain, something for fun, to spend time with each other. Or they were stories that contained some bit of wisdom, you know, to teach us to be wise.
No, I always say that when it comes to wanting to hear a good story, we all become children. We're no different than children.
Yes, it really is part of what distinguishes us from other species, is our ability to craft stories as a way to communicate with each other. And so I teach at the University of California, and this year, I believe, is my 18th year of teaching. And what I have found over the course of my career is the joy of being able to share with students how to read stories, how to break them down and kind of find the wisdom inside them, right? Find what it is about stories that can help us to find moral clarity, distinguish, improve our ethics. There's a lot about storytelling that can develop the mind. It can develop critical thinking ability in a way that learning a single subject can never do. But once you put everything into a story, once you put a particular subject into a story, then it becomes a lot easier for students to process the things that they're learning.
I completely agree. I always say that no matter what the topic is, if you put into it some storytelling, even if you're, for example, marketing,
Yep.
you know, when you connect it to a story, it'll become even stronger.
Yeah.
So storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because we've developed, as a species, we've developed that ability to interpret the world as stories, yeah.
You talked about being a professor for 18 years, mashallah, and 2 decades almost. So as both a novelist and a professor, how do you see storytelling as a pedagogical tool? And in a time when AI can also write, which is pretty scary to me as a storyteller, it can curate and even feel on our behalf. Who ultimately tells the story of humanity? What's your take on all of this?
I'm a bit skeptical of that, and I'll tell you why.
We can't feel.
I think we're still at the beginning of this age, and I think it's a little bit too early to tell what direction it's going to take in terms of the arts. So I'm going to give you different perspectives. The first is going to be one as a novelist. I've published 6 books. Recently, I discovered that 4 of them were used as part of a large database of copyrighted works by the company Anthropic to train its large language model. So this is essentially a company going in and taking work that was copyrighted and using it without consent in order to train its chatbot. And so, of course, a number of authors in the United States decided to
nightmare to all of us.
to sue Anthropic, and the judge agreed with the authors, and it came to a settlement. In which basically the judge agreed that the company had used that work without permission. So the first ethical question, the very first one, is the fact that these large language models are being trained on works that have not, that are still under copyright. That this is the intellectual property of other people that is now being used to create these chatbots. So that's one perspective as a novelist. As an educator, my home institution, the University of California, has essentially given us, I would say, wide latitude on how we can use AI. We can use AI in the classroom. We have been told, for example, that we can use it to help us develop syllabi, or to help us develop discussion questions, or even to create student feedback, which is literally our job. Like, it is our job to give feedback to students. So this is still the first year, I would say the first or second year where we've been given this latitude, so it's a little bit early. But what I'm seeing with students is oftentimes this desire to get an answer from the chatbot. And I think what gets lost in just getting an answer is the pleasure of finding the question, the pleasure of being wrong. I think it's impossible to learn without making mistakes, and we have to preserve the ability to make mistakes. In order to preserve the ability to make mistakes, we have to teach students to use the chatbots to do research, not to use the chatbot to get answers.
Maybe one day they'll teach AI to make mistakes as well, so it can be, you know, as a storyteller and a filmmaker, you know, there's so much we can discuss, but unfortunately we have to wrap up. But I'm sure you're going to be here in during the day, and we can have more discussions. Yes. Thank you very much, Leila. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you to return to your seat, please. جائزة وايز للتعليم تدعم الحلول المبتكرة التي تعالج التحديات.
WISE solves all the challenges that we're facing worldwide. In this particular initiative, there are 6 organizations who concert efforts under the supervision of experts who design a number of innovative educational tools. So the prize or the award is going to be $1 million that would enable those nominees and winners to expand their efforts. This award is going to be the culmination of the efforts that have been exerted over 2 years, and the winners' names are going to be announced in the closing session tomorrow here. And now I would like to invite you to watch the short screening of the 6 candidates for the WISE Award.
يواجه العالم أزمة تعليمية بحجم هائل. 250 مليون طفل محرومون من التعليم، وملايين آخرون لا يجيدون القراءة والكتابة أو يفتقرون لأبسط المهارات. لكن ما لا تذكره عناوين الأخبار هو أن لكل تحد هناك مبتكرون يصنعون الحلول، أدوات مبتكرة وأساليب جديدة وأمل متجدد للطلاب والمعلمين والأسر. تحتضن جائزة وايز للتعليم 6 حلول رائدة تتصدى ل3 من أبرز التحديات العالمية الراهنة.
بارنكل هي منظومة متكاملة لتعليم برايل، صممت لإحداث نقلة في طريقة تعلم برايل وتدريسه.
Aprendo en Casa, a learning ecosystem connecting 80 organizations across 8 Latin American countries.
Parents are guided to Iqra.li.jo, a platform that helps them establish daily reading habits with their children from birth.
Our goal has been to empower teens to develop the technical and creative skills they need to thrive, no matter where they come from.
The pandemic highlighted the digital divide in education. That's why we launched Starcell, an AI-powered chatbot that enables students to practice and learn math through simple channels like WhatsApp.
Fast Track emerged from combining 3 powerful educational approaches for displaced communities.
كجزء من برنامج جائزة وايز، طور هؤلاء المبتكرون حلولهم واختبروها وعمموها، محولين أفكارهم الطموحة إلى أثر واقعي.
With WISE support, we've built Tumo Path, an AI-powered platform that adapts to students in real time.
We were able to transform Iqra.li.jo into a dynamic platform.
اليوم تسهم بارنكل في تطوير التعليم في قطر والسعودية والولايات المتحدة وكندا.
We're developing and testing our approach in 3 strategic countries, Mexico, Chile, and Ecuador.
We have deployed Fast Track Plus kits in learning clusters across IDP camps.
We developed a new chatbot designed for younger students, so we could eliminate learning gaps before they became overwhelming. And that's exactly what we did, thanks to WISE.
تتطلب التحديات التعليمية العالمية حلولاً مبتكرة، وجائزة وايز تكرس جهودها لاكتشاف هذه الحلول وتوسيع نطاق تأثيرها في مختلف أنحاء العالم. نستثمر في التعليم لنمكن أجيالاً تصنع التغيير.
حظاً سعيداً.
We would like to wish good luck to all the participants, dear guests, as we conclude this opening session. Let us remember that every idea shared today, every conversation, every narrative is part and parcel to the shaping of the future of education and learning and building the character of tomorrow's generations. So we'd like you to enjoy the enriching sessions, discussions and events that will begin at 10 a.m. in the Wise Majlis area after 10 minutes. And I'm going to see you once again at 3:20 in the afternoon. We're going to be concluding the first day of the Wise Summit. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all.